interesting event occurred a couple of days ago, and that was the opening up of the Gotthard Base Tunnel in Switzerland. And it's basically to service the railroads traveling between Italy through Switzerland into Germany and France. There will be passengers, obviously, but also freight and that sort of thing. It's the longest tunnel ever built. It's 35.5 miles long. It cost 11 billion euros, which is more than the dollar, to build. And it took 17 years. So it was quite a big deal.
December 2016. The trains will travel at 100 kilometers an hour, one after the next. Passenger trains will travel at 250 kilometers an hour.
The disturbing part, however, was the opening ceremonies. And that was that they were basically, the best you can say, bizarre. Worse, satanic. And depending on your religion, I suppose you would use one of those words. The thing was that the MC was dressed as a goat. And they had a number of skits and people in a parade.
Just listen to the demonic shouting and look at the screen. This surely is meant to represent the devil. And here are 3 scarab beetles that live off dead and rotting flesh. It's too weird for words. Here's the next section, and if you look on the screen, you see this weird eye image, which is also a symbol of the occult.
For instance, they had a group coming through that were dressed as workers, representing the workers in the tunnel. And they walked through as if they were zombies. Another was they had a representation of the masses who would use the tunnel. They were dressed in white underwear only, and not even t-shirts with them in. And they were kind of milling around and bumping into each other as representative of the masses, if you will, I guess as the impression of what the masses are in the mind of the elite. that sort of thing was on display. And you know, a lot of people just don't believe that Satanism is really out there, but it really is. And you see the head of the states of Italy and Germany and France were there, and they applauded quite a bit for these ceremonies. And you know, you've got to ask the question, why didn't they just have a normal opening up of the tunnel instead of this sort of thing?
Which is the goddess of destruction and recreation. Destruction of what? It's the only goddess, catch this, out of the thousands of gods that are out there, it is the only one, the only deity that claims to destroy the universe for the purpose of recreating it. It's it. So would it shock you to discover
goats, more antlers, and here what appears to be a sacrificial lamb, which is the symbol of Jesus. Now tell me this isn't demonic.
they're doing it, what they're looking for, and what is the potential and the facts that will come out of these experiments. in great numbers. In greater and greater numbers. Not only the matter, but the energy signature is going to also be released into this realm.
constituting the Trimurti, the Trinity of Gods, are strewn all over the world, including Washington, D.C., Luxor, and Paris. The pillars have been built over the centuries for various causes. They are installed at temples, pantheons, public squares, and in private precincts. They are erected to memorialize religious and secular events. Regardless of elevation and architectural design, they have been built to symbolize reconciliation, light of awareness, fire of creativity, valor of undertakings, revolution of form and substance, as well as incomprehensible states of cosmic consciousness.
Around it, but we're going to talk about the actual mechanism that we've alluded to in past conversations about the tearing of the veil and the breaking through to another dimension. How does that actually happen from a physics standpoint? So we're going to get into that, but we wanted to lay the foundation of revisiting strangelets and what they are, as well as what are the elementary particles, the elements of the universe, and how does that play into this? Because, the egg is the birth. The Big Bang is the birth of the universe, as far as we can tell in our measurements and the discussion. And now we can go into talking about the ripping of the veil or the rending of the veil, much like happened with the temple. Quantum tunneling, it means essentially that you are moving a signal. I'll get into more detail, but you're moving a signal from one dimension to another dimension. You're moving from one quantum state through a barrier, an energy barrier, to another quantum state. So the way that I would ask people to picture this is related to how the quantum computer made by D-Wave Corporation, called the adiabatic quantum computer, that means without heat transfer. You'll even find this at their website. And they have a graph in which they show, essentially, you might call it a mountain. It's a peak. At the bottom, it has a wide base, and it goes up to a fine point at the peak. So you have basically a pyramid. And on one side of this base, you have a digital signal. This base is what's called a combinatorial program, a digital program that sends an electric signal through the base of this pyramid. That pyramid is an energy barrier, which represents a dimension, a dimensional barrier. It sends the signal through the base of that pyramid to the other side. So it pierces through, it tunnels through that energy barrier. Now, the reason that I say that it goes through the base and call it quantum tunneling, which is the accurate word, it's not my word, is that it is a shorter route to the other side of the energy barrier, to the other dimension. Instead of climbing all the way up one side of the mountain or the pyramid, over the peak, and back down the other side to the other dimension, which requires tremendous amounts of energy. and takes a lot more time in terms of quantum scale time. The shortcut is to tunnel right through the base. Now, if we scale that up, there is the dynamic, there is the scenario in which the strangelets we talked about come into play. Near defect-free solution to a problem can be achieved. So they have a computer that operates in a super cold state, superconductive, not using any heat transfer, and it's shielded by a box. It's shielded from outside electromagnetic interference, like microwaves and radio signals. And the point here is we are going to make the leap from the quantum computer to the Large Hadron Collider and the opening of the portal, because the two mechanisms only vary in scale. The processes are nearly identical. That's why I give you the graphic representation of a pyramid or a sharp-peaked mountain to describe the process of quantum tunneling, because quantum tunneling is going to scale up and be used in my explanation of how the LHC is going to open the portal, about things that happen almost in our frame of reference instantaneously. But you can break that down further and talk about picoseconds and nanoseconds. Those are the normal time frames in which things are transmutating in terms of changing from one element to another, for example, or when you're rearranging quarks. These are things that are happening very quickly. And the duration of stability of a quark-gluon condensate typically, as I said, is only in nanoseconds, but now has moved up to stability of several minutes. In some literature, I've read that they've been able to have stable strangelets for as long as an hour. I say all of that so that people have a frame of reference is open, is because of the amount of digital information that is going to travel from one dimension into our dimension. The transmitting of digital information, people can understand if you relate it to electricity or the speed of our computers. Our computers move very quickly in terms of moving electrons and the sharing of data, the sharing of digital information. This is what I'm talking about with the portal, this, let's say, eternity of time, scaling from the quantum time scale up to our time scale of several minutes, and then the portal's going to close.
Let's take a look at it. I'll show you it first and then I'll go through it.
latido, tu pulso, tu conexión, tu nuevo coche, tu alma gemela. Nuevo Nissan Pulsar.
Okay, so let's go through this. This is about the Nissan Pulsar, which, as you'll note, is the pulse of the heart. And this commercial, it shows the exact agenda with CERN and everything like that. We'll start going through it. He starts off in this car in the tunnel, so he's starting in the secret chamber. And you'll notice the eye symbolism, the eye being the gate, the single eye here. And this is all to do with the birth of the Antichrist. And it's all to do with the way that CERN is going to crack open the rabbit hole. It's going to crack open the portal. So we go through the eye. So remember, the eye is the gate, the gateway to the soul. The eye being the gate, the vaginal gate. You notice here that we go through the eye. So he's in the tunnel, and we start off by going through the eye. We go through kind of fibre optic type thing, but we're talking of rays of light here. Remember, in a video I spoke of before about CERN, is that it's all to do with the light. Faster than the speed of light is how you manipulate time and how you break these things free through the ox and the gate. Time and space gate, the ripping of the veil. So we go through, look at this, so we've got the rays of light that then go into this horizon. You notice how all of these all these rays of light go together into a collision, and the smoke of the pit, you see the smoke there, they're coming together into the collide, just like the LHC, Large Hadron Collider, recreating the conditions of the Big Bang, before the Big Bang. And this is it. Look at that. There you go. There's the Big Bang. So the rays of light coming together. Boom. Into. And that's what we're seeing here. And they need to recreate that in order to compress the spectrum of visible light, the rainbow, into the pure white light of Lucifer. Of course, Christ is the light of life. Lucifer is the light of death. Lucifer being the hijacker of this fallen reality. And we go to Pulsar. So this is obviously to do with the pulsing of from the heart of the beast. Boom. The black sun is the heart of the beast. So then what do we go into? I'll show you in a second that we actually see the heart forming. So, boom. Right, let's look at this. Look at the code on the car, on the number plate. We've got MXM and we've got 88. Get rid of the zeros. 88. The cube. Time. Time. Breaking time in the way that they want to, in their counterfeit way. 88. HH. H is 8. 88. Holy of Holies. Remember, Christ defeated this, and behind the Holy of Holies, behind the curtain in the temple, was the black cube. 88. Holy of Holies. HH 88. That's how Christ defeated this curse. Christ did not have to go. The Father, if that were, Christ said the Pharisees were worshipping their father, the devil. That was Christ's words, Christ's very own words. He said that their father was the devil, not our true Father. So when Christ died on the cross, he went through that temple spiritually, because it tore, and that cube behind there was blown open. Christ did not go into the Father to defeat the curse. That is absolutely blasphemous, guys, and that is the complete lie that they have fed people, that Christ had to go to the Father to defeat the curse. How does that make any sense whatsoever? The heart of the beast, the black blood that pulses through, the heart of the earth. Christ had to go into the heart of the earth, the heart of the beast, the belly of the beast, all of these things tie together, guys, in order to defeat it. So there you go, there's the heart, and coming through this tunnel or shaft or rabbit hole, the bending, look, the bend of the way they describe the CERN bending, the particles. This thing is representing the speed of light coming through that shaft. to do with the speed of the car, I guess, but in their weird, messed up, occult way, coming through the tunnel, just like the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, coming out the light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of the shaft, coming out of the rabbit hole, the tunnel. Look at it, flash come out. The speed. This is probably the Antichrist figure on the white horse, because now the car goes into the white, and look at this, into the headlight, which represents the eye. The vortex. This is a vortex, guys. This is through the wormhole. This is it coming out. This is CERN doing this. In an occult way, they're showing what CERN is doing, and the breaking open of portals and wormholes. Look at this. It's absolute, look, into that spiral. We saw this in Miley Cyrus 23 video. A shoe goes through here. I've done a video on it before. A shoe goes through here. But look, it's all to do with the collision coming out of the eye, the gate. Look at that. I mean, what relevance has this got to do with this car? Why are they showing these brief snippets of eyes and gates? So he's in the driving seat. He's coming through dimensionally. He's coming from the cave or the womb, the tomb. Green light. See, now the car is white. It's changed from silver into white. This is alchemical. Coming through the dimensional planes. This is a dimensional plane of existence. I know it sounds strange to some people, but this journey has come from the rabbit hole through the dimensional planes, and it's going to end up in our real world. Look at that giant X. The Nazi colours as well, the red and black. That red is very distinctive to me now, because it is that Nazi. So look at this on the highway. Saturn Pulsar from the heart of the beast, and it's come into our real world. It's the manifestation of this, the white horse, the Antichrist coming through into our real world, absolutely occulted. No one would really see that unless you know what you're looking for.
Baby hits 88 miles per hour. You're gonna see some serious shit.
The handwritten document contains instructions for making philosophic mercury that Newton copied from a text from another known alchemist. It's a sign of his readings, interest, and experiments in alchemy. Making philosophic mercury was just one of the steps of the alchemical process. It could be used also to make the philosopher's stone. This manuscript links Newton's alchemical practice to the American figure George Starkey. He's probably America's first renowned published scientist.
Hello, this is Michael Paul with New Orleans Scottish Rite College. I'd like to do a video today on a subject that is often an area of confusion, alchemy. When we speak of alchemy and Freemasonry together, it can often be a flashpoint for argument. Masons sometimes view alchemy, especially when connected to Freemasonry, as something akin to utter nonsense. Alchemists are often viewed as nutty old men in long robes, doing strange things, all with the goal of swindling ignorant medieval royalty out of their wealth. Alchemists are often viewed as con men who played on the ignorance, superstition, and greed of their victims. But can we truly think of what the alchemists are said to have done as pure nonsense? My father was a career military man who retired as a full colonel from the Army. I grew up on an Army base and actually joined Freemasonry still living on that base, that a piece of artificial gold or an artificial gem will put in your hand, most people would have no idea that it's a fake. In many cases, it would take a trained jeweler with expensive modern equipment to determine the real from the fake. Is it possible to make real gold from base metal? I've never done it, but it is very possible to make something that looks, feels, and seems like real gold. It's done all the time. So, if we were to go back in time to when the alchemists were the nutty old men in long robes, and they handed you, or some king, something that looked like, felt like, and by every known standard of the time was gold, what would be the conclusion? So, is alchemy real? But is that even the most important question? Maybe the real question is, what is the true goal of alchemy? Was the true goal of alchemy ever to simply change base metals into gold and con noblemen out of their wealth? Could there be something more? Alchemy brings about a change. It claims to take something less and make it of greater value. What does Freemasonry do? The alchemical process is a complex series of events with the goal of improving the nature of something, making it of more value. We can see that it is very reasonable that one borrowed from the other. The concepts and basic goals of both alchemy and Freemasonry are too similar to discount some association and basic connection in the formative time of our craft. In the Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back, the young Jedi, Luke Skywalker, unsuccessfully attempted to lift his X-Wing fighter from a swamp. After several attempts, he gave up. He told the Jedi Master, Yoda, that lifting the fighter with the Force, as Yoda had asked him to do, was impossible. Yoda, just after lifting the X-Wing out of the swamp himself, told Luke, "You must unlearn what you have learned." There is a profound wisdom in that statement.
coexisting within the box. So the cat is both alive and dead until we open the box, at which point the state of superposition collapses and we see either a live cat or a dead cat. Now, the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment is often referred to as a paradox being a state of two things, two contradictory things, being simultaneously true. But another interpretation of it is that it is an example of the multi-universe theorem, which basically states that for every event, quantum or otherwise, that could go one way or the other, a new universe is created, or I should say two new universes are created, one for each possible outcome. A universe will be created for each possibility. You will both have honey and jam on your toast.
We're focusing on electrons being the functional component of how a computer computes zeros and ones. It does that by changing the direction of spin of the electrons, representing zeros and ones. Here we have a pyramid that is doing exactly the same thing with a DZ in its core, which is exactly the same configuration, the same architecture. The DZ is exactly the way they have built IBM's and D-Wave's quantum computers to match the pyramid, both in its architecture and in its functionality. Both are quantum computers.
Astrology as explained by the Queen Anne Masonic Lodge, number 242. Is there any connection with Freemasonry? The short answer is that Freemasonry and astrology have as much or as little in common as do astrology and medicine. How has astrology woven its way into the mainstream historically? For Freemasons, the fact that another famous architect, Vitruvius, wrote in chapter 2 of his 10 books of architecture, in which he deals with the education of an architect, that architects must know the 7 liberal arts and sciences well, particularly geometry, but also astrology, in order to understand the proper alignment of buildings, both for practical reasons, sunlight, wind, and other site-related factors, but also symbolically, according to the belief system of his time.
Anyway, he showed me this book called God's Voice in the Stars, and the Gospel in the Stars, and literally every single sign is about the end times. It's about Jesus Christ, it's about Scripture, it's about the Virgin, it's about the heel wounding the serpent. It's literally about everything, okay? According to this method of interpretation, okay? You see the lion? Its foot is bruising the head of the serpent. And this crater is actually the wrath of God, the cup of the blood of the Lamb, the wine. And then this bird is also bruising the serpent. Listen, in Denzera, the Leo is treading down the great serpent Hydra, his powerful claws having wounded the head of the serpent. In this sign, we see, for the 4th time, the symbolism of Christ in triumph crushing the head of his enemy. It was seen in the sign of Scorpio, where Ophiuchus, the mighty man, holds his foot over the head of Scorpio, the deadly enemy, about to crush him. Again, the triumphant victor Hercules was seen crunching with his foot the head of the terrible dragon Draco. Again, in the sign of Taurus, we noted Orion had his foot on the head of Lepus, the enemy. And now finally, the truth is repeated in the last sign, Leo. The significance of this connection with biblical prophecy can hardly be missed. Through this pretty quickly. The brightest star in Virgo is Spica. It means a seed or the ear of corn. And Zerah in Genesis 3:15 is when God promises the seed of woman will crush the head of Satan. And then Alchemy is the branch, and many times God is alluded to as a branch, the vine. Okay, and you'll see that symbolism a lot. Zevi Have, star Beta in Virgo, is actually means beautiful Jehovah. That's the name of what the star means. Okay, the branch of the Lord will be beautiful. Isaiah 4:2 has every single star name every single star's adjective in the constellation of Virgo. I think that's incredibly amazing. The branch, which is Alchemy, and then will be a beautiful Lord right here, Zavihabe, Yahweh. Okay, so this it just gets crazy. Another star is called Ascent 1. Okay, so the Virgo has a branch, Ascent 1, and beautiful Jehovah, and Seed of the Virgin, all within the star names of that sign. So as you can see, every single sign will be like this.